cesarean section, and that's basically just delivering the baby abdominally. So traditionally, the way that we know, or what we refer to as normal delivery, is vaginal. So the baby comes out through the birth canal, the vagina. But with the CS, we take out the baby abdominally.
Wanjiru. From Nakuru. My hometown is in Nakuru, but I relocated here.
My name is Dr. Lorraine Muluka. I'm an obstetrician and gynecologist.
We are in Kamulu, Roai, Sahembu stage. We have a business with us here, La Treasure Beauty and Cosmetics. We do all related hair things, like we do braiding, Ghanaians, everything. We also do gel, we do manicure and pedicure. That's what we do for our day-to-day life.
I'm based in Hill. My clinic is in Landmark Plaza, first floor, CA Medlynks.
My journey in CS started in the year 2007, that's after I conceived. And through the journey, the journey was quite well until the last trimester. I was running a beauty shop, and while cleaning the beauty shop, I fell down. I slid and fell. That ended up hitting my right hand side of the stomach. I visited the hospital and I was given some medication. I recall well, there were diclofenac. Those are painkillers, if I'm not wrong. The situation was not easy, so I had to go back in the evening because I actually feared I would wait until late night. It would be a little bit hard for me to access the hospital. So I had to go back there at around 6. They kept on checking on me until around 4 a.m. The whatever ruptured, and it had some meconium. There was a green fluid, which I understand well, it was due to fetal distress. It was actually 39th week, sorry, because I had visited the clinic like 2 weeks before then, and the doctor said that the baby is full term. I was to wait for the true pains, labor pains. That's now, I think 2 weeks after the due date. That's when I fell down. So the membrane ruptured, and I had to seek more attention because the hospital didn't have a theater with them. Dilation was 4 centimeters. So I had to go to Pumwani because they have theaters and more professionals. I went to Pumwani at around 9 a.m. I had to stay because Pumwani has a lot of patients, many emergencies, so you have to queue. I waited until I had my CS at around 4 a.m. After the CS, after recovering from the operation bed, that's when the doctors told me the baby is out, but was already in nursery because the baby had problems in breathing and etc. The baby was taken to the nursery. I was taken back to the ward. Now in the maternity ward, I had to wait. I waited at around 12. It was around 12 noon. That's when the nurses broke the news to me that the baby didn't make it. So that's where now the thing really hit me.
So ideally, the time that you're being told that you need to go for a cesarean section, it could either be a function of a maternal indication or something to do with the baby. So usually if you're in labor, some of the things that are looked out for is how well are you progressing in terms of the labor, because there's the expectation that you should be able to dilate from a cervix that's completely closed to 10 centimeters. And there's usually timelines that we base this against. So if a mother is not dilating as she should, and she ends up having what we call prolonged labor, then we may then decide that this is a lady who needs to go for cesarean section. Now, there are other times that during the process of labor, you find that the baby is not responding well to labor, because labor is indeed a laborious process and a stressful process for the baby. So if the baby's heartbeat is maybe not in the right ranges, or there are other features of the heartbeat that are indicative that this baby may be in what we call distress, then you find that the mother may end up going for a cesarean section. Things like bleeding in the course of the labor process, and sometimes may even just precede labor, so you end up having a lot of bleeding, then someone may then opt to take a lady for cesarean section. And the indications are several. Some of them range from even the antenatal period. If a baby maybe is too small and you think that this is a baby who may not be able to tolerate labor, if the mother has other complications associated with the pregnancy, then you may find that some of these deliveries end up occurring via cesarean section. But by and large, women just need to be educated on the possibilities of these things occurring, and if they then do occur, that this cesarean section is a mode of delivery.
Because of the stress, the stress which comes hand in hand after losing a baby, my wound could not heal properly like the others, because I would strain, so it didn't come up well. I had to wait for around 2 days and went back home. Now at home it became more hard, because explaining to people where the kid was a little bit tricky. Because actually I had friends who came with Pampers and some stuff to check on the baby. Now telling them, they were waiting, hey, now bring us the baby, we want to see the baby. It was hard for me to explain. The wound took a very long period to heal, because it would even open after some time, and I would go for dressing for actually more than 6 months. Yeah, it was not easy. The wound took a very long period to heal, but I thank God everything came back to good, and I had to carry on with life. I conceived again and had another CS. In fact, the first CS on the year 2008 around May. I had another CS in the year 2009 in July. It was not enough. I had another CS in the year 2011 July. I thank God those 2 CS didn't have any complications, because I got to hospital on time. I had a pre-elective CS, and the doctors took along well with me, so I didn't have any complications with the other CS. After 2011, I had another CS in the year 2016 May. And here I am.
A cesarean section is a major surgery, and surgeries do not come without risks, right? And these are risks that we do talk to the ladies about, because things such as having bleeding, which may then cause you to require a transfusion, that is a risk. You may end up having infections. This is at the time of the wound when it's healing. So the risk is high when you have a cesarean section, and then you can also end up having different complications, from having clots in the legs to having injury to organs in the time of cesarean. So it's not something to be taken lightly, and it's important that ladies understand that even as they're choosing to opt for cesarean section as a mode of delivery.
The stigmatizations were there till today, because many people tend to think that having a baby through CS is a choice, which actually is not. Because I remember well during my first experience, we were living in a certain plot, and I would hear women talking that watu wenye wanapata watoto na CS wajuage uchungu wa mtoto, and they would like kind of discriminate you, saying that you are not complete just because you've not given birth in a normal way. Other things are like having a number of CSs. It becomes hard for you to lift things, to bend a lot. It becomes hard. Things like back pains, people tend to think you are pretending. Even in the family, you'll get some people talking of you are pretending you don't want to work. It was your choice. You see, there are a lot of stigmatization. The other thing is like the scar. Actually, after the first CS, I had a very bad scar because of the opening and that reopening of the wound because of the stress that I was going through. So it ended up leaving a big scar which would actually protrude through the normal outfits. And you would hear people making fun, you are shapeless. And it has not been easy. It is not easy.
So this perception is probably based on the fact that when you go in for a cesarean section, then at that point you're given what we call anesthesia, which literally numbs your body. Most of the time it's a spinal one, whereby you're not experiencing any pain from your abdomen downwards, and sometimes it's the general one where you're sleeping. But nonetheless, after that procedure, there is different levels of pain that women would experience during the healing process. And same with the vaginal delivery. There's women who experience excruciating pain during the process of labor and delivery, and there are those who have a very silent labor, whereby they can't even speak to you about what the labor pains were. So really the perception would not be a hard and fast rule that either one would be less painful, but you can see why someone would think a CS is less painful than the vaginal one. I think there's something that ladies say nowadays: you don't have to be a martyr to be a mother. And so they believe that going through the labor process may then now have that excruciating pain, and they're not willing to experience it. And then also there's the fact that there's ladies who have gone through the labor and end up going for a cesarean section. So there are those who just are of the school of thought that I don't want to go through any of that, and I just want to have a simpler delivery plan, so they opt to go for cesarean section. And there are those who actually go for it because they just want to pick the date of their baby's birth. So there are different reasons that people are going for cesarean section nowadays. Well, there's been several talks about that, with people questioning some of the indications that ladies underwent cesarean section for, but that would be very difficult to speak of unless an audit is done. But the truth is that there are indications usually for mothers to undergo CSs, but if you're not prepared in advance, then at the point in time whereby you are told that you need to go for a cesarean section, you may feel that it was uncalled for, and maybe you would have been able to deliver vaginally. So it's really a space whereby it's very difficult to tell whether there's that contributing factor. But definitely what I can say is that over the last decade, we can say that the number of cesarean deliveries really has exponentially increased in our country.
My word to the women going through whatever I experienced in my first CS, I actually want to encourage them and tell them there are much for them in store. God has a lot of things for them in store. You should not just get discouraged from doing whatever you want, raising up the number of kids you want because people are talking ill of you. You should always focus, go ahead, because having a bad experience doesn't mean that the rest will be the same. For like myself, I underwent a very bad experience during my first CS, which actually women would tell me, uwezi za tena. Hiyo CS kwanza inakuwa mbaya. Sasa lazima ungoje miaka 5, which is not the case. I had that CS 2008 and 2009, less than 1.5 years. I actually 1 and 7 months, I gave birth to another baby. Although it was through CS, the experience was not as bad as the previous one. So it is possible. It is not disability. The kids do not come along with a tag that I was born through CS. It is very normal. Yeah, God has been faithful. His grace has been sufficient. I now have my 3 babies, and they are doing well. And it doesn't stop me from doing my day-to-day activities.
Yes, it is one of the risks of cesarean section.